Okay, so we're recording the meeting. Just want to make sure that you know that this is being recorded.
Yes.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I'm here with Alvin Tafoya. He's the Deputy Director of Human Rights and Community Partnerships, Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. And he's agreed to sit down with me for a little bit and answer some questions about his role and the efforts that he's involved with. So let's start right off. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you became involved with the HRCP OFEP.
Yes, Alvin Tafoya, pleasure to meet everybody. How I became involved with HRCP, 2 years ago, I was looking to make a career transition, well, a little bit more than 2 years ago, but I have basically 20 years of human service related experience. And of those years, I have about 10 plus years for, running programs, 40 administrator, program manager over programs like child support, TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, Child Care Assistance Program, the Responsible Fatherhood Program, long-term care, workforce, just a whole variety of programming in the human service world. And when I came across this particular job posting, it just resonated with me. It kind of helped pull together all the years of programming that I have knowledge of, as well as adding that new element that really helps families stabilize so that they can move forward financially and become free and independent of government benefits. But, the posting really spoke to me. So I applied, obviously, and then had some really great interviews. They asked really great questions. I just felt like it was a good fit for me. I didn't by no means think that I was going to get the job, because I've had, good interviews before, and you don't always get the job even though you feel good about it. But this particular job, I was fortunate to be offered the job, and 2 years later, I am still as passionate as I was when I first read that posting. And I'm really, really excited of the work that we're doing for, our community here in the city and county of Denver.
Great. Can you tell me some background about the HRCP OFEP?
Sure. So HRCP, well, the Office of Financial Empowerment, HRCP goes back quite a ways, and I'm not the subject matter expert on that, but Derek Okubo, he always tells a really good story of how it started and how far it goes back. And so it really does go back several decades, actually, in terms of one of our former mayors wanting us to ensure that there was equity and inclusion even back then. But it was a slow start. And then, it became a staple. And then the Office of Financial Empowerment in and of itself started out in, let me get this right, back in 2013. And so within that context, we wrote for a grant, while Jay Salas and his other teammates wrote for a grant to the Cities for Financial Empowerment, who were, is a nonprofit, a Bloomberg Foundation organization that wants to empower people financially so that they can better understand, budgeting, credit scores, debt, income, things like that, so that they can make better informed decisions with their funds that they are receiving through employment. And so back in 2013, we applied for the grant and received $633,000 to launch this program. And that was each year for 3 years. And that was basically just seed money to get this up and running. And so that's how the Office of Financial Empowerment became a program. And then after those 3 years, the mayor's office saw the value in keeping this program around. And so, we are currently receiving general funds to provide this service to the community. And that's kind of where we're at today. And so it originally started out as Financial Empowerment Center, which basically means that we partner with other organizations in the city to place financial coaches in those areas to amplify their outcomes, as well as meet our outcomes in the process. And so through that process, we have several partners in the community, Warren Village, Habitat for Humanity, Denver Human Services. We're also at their East Side location as well, their Montbello location. There's several other partners that we also partner with. We provide free tax prep through DABC, Denver Asset Building Coalition, things like that. Several other partners, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's the background about the Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. As you may have noted, it started out as the Office of Financial Empowerment, and as time went by, and actually two to 3 years ago, we actually added Consumer Financial Protection. We added Consumer Financial Protection, and my kids. We added Consumer Financial Protection to the mix because we felt that safety is a big issue in our community, and fraud is running rampant even now. There's a lot of fraud happening, and so Consumer Financial Protection was launched, and that was also supported through a grant to get it up and running, and then became sustainable through the mayor's office and general funds. And we could talk about that a little bit more later, but I wanted to add that piece. And again, with COVID, the onset of COVID, we've had to be pretty nimble in terms of, pivoting and making some pivots, because COVID is really wreaking havoc for many of the citizens in our community. And so, that's kind of where we're at with that. And we took the lead on getting all the appropriate people to the table to address evictions. And so we created a 2-page document that clearly identifies all the terms, all the rights that a tenant has, the timelines and the laws, and any resources that are available out in the community to help folks stay in their apartment, because we know that it's less expensive to help somebody stay in their home than it is to, them become potentially homeless, have bad credit because of their rental situation, so on and so forth. And we'll be having 3 town halls here in the near future to address, share that information with the larger audience. We also brought everybody to the table related to foreclosures. And so on the foreclosure side, we did basically the same thing, got the partners to the table, created some documentation regarding the legal process, how it plays out, timelines, so on and so forth, as well as resources. We also generated those documents in 14 primary languages in the city and county of Denver. And so anybody who needs assistance, they can contact us at our main number at 720-944-2498 or fec@denvergov.org, and we can help them navigate those systems.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. You basically have already talked about the organization as far as the structure goes, but I know recently you have gone through some organizational changes. What are the differences between your current structure versus your former one? You were a nonprofit entity, and now you're with the city.
Yes. Last year in March, we learned that Empowerment, former nonprofit organization in the community, their board decided that they can no longer keep their doors open. And, going back a little bit, a little history behind that, Empowerment was, they had another name, but going all the way back to 2013, Jay Solis worked with an organization, is primarily a credit assessment organization where they helped you look at your credit, things like that, and helped to transform them into financial coaches. Kind of doing the same work, but a little bit different, a little bit more formalized, and really focused on, low to moderate income individuals, families and small businesses is really the audience that we're serving. And so, like I stated early on, it was just the financial coaches, and we contracted that piece out with Empowered. When Empowered was getting ready to shut their doors, Jay Solis had to quickly pivot and meet with the mayor to see what we can do to sustain this program, and just because of the outcomes and the importance that financial empowerment has on individuals, especially people of color and low to moderate income. And so it started out as financial coaches. As time went by, we added the consumer financial protection piece. And then because of COVID, we also added navigators, financial navigators, to help navigate systems. But our navigators are more than just navigators. They basically advocate as well for our customers. So unlike a 311 or 211, we don't just give them a resource. We'll give them a resource, but we'll also help advocate. So if they apply, put their application in, and that organization says that, it normally takes 3 weeks to review and deem them eligible to receive the services. We get in the middle of that if things aren't happening timely, because we know that people's lives are at risk in terms of becoming homeless, not being able to eat, not being able to receive medical attention, so on and so forth. And so, we added the navigator piece to make sure that as we're working with families, we can provide a wraparound service. And so through that wraparound service, we're able to not only help them, manage the finances that they're currently receiving, but we also work to make sure we assess them to make sure that if there's any other gaps in their home, because if they came to us and they're struggling financially, chances are there's other financial challenges in the home, like food, childcare, utilities, things that have not been paid, or even some of their credit cards, or things that have not been paid because they're not at a place where they can currently afford all their that's due in a household income and budget. And so that's kind of what we do. Our financial coaches, from a standpoint of the outcomes, what their primary charge is to ensure that we help them understand their credit report, we help them grow their credit score. Our data from 2019, I don't have my 2020 data yet, but our 2019 data indicated that on average, we were able to help folks increase their credit score by at least 49 points. Now, if you understand the credit score concept, the better the credit score you have, the less you pay in interest on everything that you decide to borrow or purchase in terms of interest. And so it's really important for our families to understand how that impacts them. And so that's one area. The other area we look at is savings, helping people to create savings, to create their own safety net, really, because what we do know is that like 60% of all Americans can't even afford a $400 emergency. And what happens when they don't have the funds, or they don't have easy access to banking to get a quick loan, like a same-day loan, they have a tendency of going to payday loans, predatory loans, which are high interest. And so, our goal is to educate them, get them so that they can walk into any bank and obtain a loan, an emergency loan if needed, but preferably to create their own safety net savings, so that if they have that emergency, they can be able to quickly and easily pay for it. And one example we use is a single mom, 2 kids. She's working, the kids are in childcare, her transmission breaks in her car. And so, now she's at jeopardy of she don't have transportation, she can't get her kids to childcare. She's at risk of losing her spot at childcare. She's at risk of losing her CCAP, childcare assistance eligibility. And now she's at risk of even potentially becoming homeless, because now she's not generating revenue because she can't make it to work. And so, she's kind of steering towards potential homelessness at this point, right? But if you have that emergency fund in place, and she can take that car in over the weekend, get that transmission fixed quickly and easily, and get back on the road, make it to her job, able to drop the kids off at childcare, and so to help her move on. And so it doesn't take much for a family to fall behind financially, and then it just has that spiral effect where now they're on government benefits wholly, and they may or may not be, they may be couch surfing, which is considered homelessness in the city and county of Denver. So that's just one story of how our navigators and financial coaches help with these individuals. The last piece of our program is Bank on Denver. And so Bank on Denver was originally under the city and county of Denver. I forget which department it is. Actually, I believe it is under your DITO many years ago, probably the same 13 years ago. Actually, a little bit, yeah, maybe 13 years ago. But so they were under the city for a period of time, a city program, Bank on Denver. And then it was decided for them to move out as a nonprofit. And so Bank on Denver moved out as a nonprofit. We just celebrated our 10 years of being a nonprofit. And Bank on Denver, our main goal there is to ensure that banking institutions, credit unions and such create banking products that are designed for low to moderate income individuals. And so that means less fees. That means, they could receive a debit card so they never go over on their balances. Therefore, they never have to pay, late fees or, bounce check fees and things like that. Also, there's recently an article that just came out that says Latinos and Blacks pay higher percentage of banking fees than any other population. And that's not good. And so what Bank on Denver does, we work with cities for financial empowerment to create what they call national account standards, which basically asks the bank to create products for low to moderate income individuals of low to no fees associated with those accounts, and to ensure that folks have a fair shot at the financial system to make their way through life. And so that's what we do at Bank on Denver. We also create small loan products for minority businesses. And I'll tell you a story in which we, 2 years ago, a little more, actually 2 to 3 years ago, it started prior to me getting here. But when I came on board, there's a program between Bank on Denver, Mikasa, and Guarantee Bank. And within that context, Mikasa works with a lot of minority small businesses. However, these individuals are really good at their craft or the service that they provide our community. What we learned is they're not so good at making solid business decisions or handling their finances, their personal finances, as well as their business finances, as well as they possibly could. And so we partnered with Mikasa and Guarantee Bank and said, hey, how can we support these small businesses? They came back to us and told us they're high risk. Their debt to income is too high, their credit score is too low, they don't have enough revenue generating in their business. Their paperwork isn't as clear, their profit and loss statements weren't clear. And so, and what we found out was many of those small businesses were commingling their dollars, their personal funds with their business funds. And so, like even now with the PPP loans and everything, they had a really hard time justifying their profit and loss because they weren't using some modern technology like a Quickens book or something like that to help them move forward. But in the end, what we decided on was a business coach and a personal financial coach. In terms on the loan side, what we decided was, even though the bank told us they're high risk, we went back and said, well, even though they're high risk, how can we do business with them? What would we need to do to figure that out? And as a Bank on Denver board member, we came out and said, what if we raise some funds to create a loan loss reserve to offset the risk? And so at that time, we raised, I believe it was $75,000 for about a $300,000 loan fund. And we were able to secure a contract between Bank on Denver and Guarantee Bank. And basically what we did, we had a committee that would look at the loan requests and review them. And we came up with some underwriting that falls below what a normal bank would consider as, a good risk, a good creditor risk. And so we negotiated that out because we're offsetting the risk. after it is all done and said, we loaned out about $330,000. We served about 30 businesses, and we had less than a 1% default rate. Most banks, institutions, or credit unions, their default rate comes in at about 5 or 7%, and so we had less than a 1%. And the particular business that had defaulted on their loan, they were in a severe auto accident and could no longer operate their business. And the bank was so pleased with this product that we all created and the low default rate that they said, hey, let's go ahead. We're just going to pay for that. And we're going to continue doing business. We want to continue doing business with you guys. And so very, very awesome program. It goes down to a credit score of 550. You know, it takes special consideration on their debt to income. But ultimately the goal, we call it a bridge to a bridge loan, because at the end of this process, we want them to be able to walk into any banking institution, have the appropriate amount of credit, the appropriate debt to income. And so, you know, we're helping them to move on and move forward. One of our biggest success stories was a gentleman and his brother. They owned a food truck and a food cart. And 2 years later, with a business coach and a personal financial coach, they were able to break ground on 5 locations. And so it was pretty amazing how they were able to go from a food truck to owning 5 restaurants. And so it really is an opportunity, and there is opportunity out there for them. And because we took a risk on them and helped move them forward. We had another minority woman in Swansea, the Lyria area. She had a small business out there. She recently sold it for $200,000, and that's just on the profit side. She's sitting on those funds, waiting to decide what her next business adventure is going to be. And so, you know, these are 2 of our stories. There's many, many stories that we can share, but these are the 2 that really highlight what happens when you work with people who are passionate and good at what they do, but don't quite, you know, understand the theory of business and or their personal finances. And so we recently launched a similar program with NewSed, which is another one of our partners, and Alpine Bank. And so NewSed is also providing business classes, and now those small business entrepreneurs have access to capital also. And so, you know, that's kind of what we do at Bank on Denver. So just to be clear, we have our FEC, Financial Empowerment Center. Those are what we call our boots on the ground, providing coaching in the community. We have our navigators who know where all the resources are, whether it's federal, state, or county resources, and how to access them for our customers. We also have our consumer financial protection. That's our protection arm for our customers. And the areas that consumer financial protection provides is wage theft, fair lending, fair housing, elder financial abuse, and notario fraud. And so those are the areas that we're focusing on right now, because we know that these things are happening, especially during times of crisis like COVID. Fraud is on the rise, and also, you know, we're also in the business of helping people out in neighborhoods that are being gentrified. And so, you know, when a neighborhood is starting to be gentrified, all these organizations, for-profit organizations, are coming in trying to buy people's houses, and typically below the value of the house. And so we get the word out to those people. We want to educate them and let them know that your neighborhood's being gentrified, and here's the pros and cons of that. And the pros are, yes, your property value is going up because the city's investing capital in your neighborhood. Your property value is going up, but also your property taxes. And so, you know, that's great for, you know, maybe someone who is middle-aged and gainfully employed. But for a lot of our baby boomers who are on a fixed income, their property taxes going up, that's an issue for them. Some of them can't afford, you know, the increase in taxes. And even in the small businesses, you know, those small business properties, when those values go up, so does the rent. And so we're also working with the small businesses and the landlords in those neighborhoods to try to minimize those impacts to those small businesses and help move them forward. And so there really is a ton of stuff that we do. It's just it's a lot. It really is a lot for the size of our team, but we're all very passionate. We all bring our expertise to the table. We don't use titles in our office. We really just work off of everybody's talents, right? Their natural talents, or their talents that they learned at school or through trade or otherwise. And so, that's how we operate. Jay is a phenomenal leader. He allows us to be our best at what we do. And so, that's what makes this team great.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a lot of services you offer, that's for sure. How many, let's talk numbers. How many people or businesses do you serve on a monthly basis? And have you seen that going up and down because of the COVID situation?
Yeah, so, currently, as I stated, we'll start with the businesses. We also, Bank on Denver, as well as NewSed, received CRF funding to get funds out to the community, small business loans or grants, actually, with NewSed up to $15,000, mainly because what we heard from the community was we appreciate the low interest loans, but we don't want to finance bad debt with more debt. And so what we really need are grants to help us sustain and get through this. And so COVID has kind of forced us to think out of the box and how can we save as many minority businesses as possible. And in particular, when we set up that particular grant, because I'm a board member at NewSed also, we set that particular grant up to align with the mayor's priorities. And so those grants were specifically and primarily designed for women-owned entrepreneur businesses, and then minority businesses, and then individual businesses. But we wanted to align with the mayor's priorities for women-owned businesses, women minority-owned businesses, just for clarification there. Let's see, to date, I don't have a firm figure, but I would say that we've helped at least 35 businesses with grants to help them sustain and stay open. We still have applications in the hopper. We're waiting to see if additional funds will come through so that we can continue serving this particular niche population. We're working with all of our partners on East Colfax, so any opportunity zones where there are minority businesses, they also have the opportunity to apply for those grants. Because we want to try to salvage and save as many minority businesses as possible during this time of COVID. And so there's that on the business side. Like I said, through Mikasa, we helped about 30 businesses receive grants, technical assistance, business coaching, financial coaching. Everything that we do comes with those auxiliary wraparound services, because we know that those services help amplify outcomes. And so, there's that on the business front. We also have what we call our Innovation Hub. And through the Innovation Hub, we partner with any organization, for-profit, nonprofit, state, government, whatever, to try to help fill gaps that may be evident. And, because not every individual, family, or small business fits neatly into an government eligibility box. And so sometimes we have to create programming outside of that so that we can still help those particular populations. One example I'll share with you, when I first came on a couple years ago, we were working with an older adult woman whose child had special needs. He was already a young adult, but they both, he had special needs and she was still taking care of him. Anyway, their water heater went out in the middle of winter. They didn't have access to hot water, very challenging. And we spent numerous hours in committees talking about this particular challenge with very little resolution. We ultimately got resolution, but the time that it took to get there wasn't the best timing, right? And so through Bank on Denver, because we identified that older adults don't fit neatly in eligibility boxes, we went to our banking partners, because Bank on Denver, we're working with every bank and credit union, probably 90% of all banks and credit unions, CDFIs, even the FDICs at the table, and all of our partners are there, and some philanthropic organizations as well. So we put an ask out to the community at Bank on Denver, and we received $10,000 fund so that we can help. That would, very little restrictions, just help for older adults who are struggling with certain things that they can't afford. And so, those are the types of things we do. If we find that there's not a resource in the city and county of Denver that can easily help them, we go to the table and we raise funds to make sure that we can help those populations, because honestly, baby boomers are the backbone of this country, and to see them have to struggle or potentially lose their houses or lose their equity in their house, it's just unforgivable, and we need to make sure that we provide support to them.
Yeah, it's fantastic that there's obviously a need for your services in this community. Is there a cost to use your services, either by individuals or by companies?
No, there's no cost at all for financial coaching or consumer financial protection or navigation or even Bank on Denver. And so all these programs are free to community members, city and county of Denver residents. And so, it's a zero cost. Just give us a call at 720-944-2498. You can receive as many coaching sessions as you like. We have individuals that come back year after year to receive a financial coaching session because they want to sit across the table from a professional, a certified professional that can help them look at their financial picture and help move them forward. And so not only do we want individuals to sustain their livelihood and be able to make all their payments, but we also want them to pursue assets, to buy their first home, so that at some point in time they can transition that transfer of wealth onto their children and their children's children, and hopefully do a multi-generational impact and teach people how to transfer those assets so that their lives aren't as hard as those that came before them. And so we really have a programming that starts literally from birth till wealth transfer. And so so when I say that we're partnering with Head Start, VOA, to inject financial coaching at that level. We're working with a program with DPS children, young adults, to help transition them into college and help them, transition out of college with the least amount of debt as possible so that they can still afford a home, but also come out of there making a livable wage, because livable wage is really what, dictates a family's trajectory in terms of what they can and can't invest in, what type of assets they can purchase and keep and transfer to their family members when that time comes. I currently sit on the governor's Secure Savings Board, in which the governor is creating a program so that anybody, regardless of where they're employed, can contribute to their retirement fund. And so what that means in the long run is that if you're an employer and you have at least 5 employees, the city's going to prop up and pay for a retirement program where an employee can automatically, if they want to donate a percent or a fixed amount, they can. And the reason why we're doing that is because the data tells us that if it automatically comes out of their check, they're less likely to challenge that, and they're more likely to leave those funds in that retirement account. And from my own personal experience, having worked in government, not every company offers a match for retirement, and some of them don't offer a retirement at all. And so this is why we're creating that particular fund, so that low to moderate income individuals can learn to save money and have that as a something to fall back on. Our baby boomers, many of them didn't have retirement funds, and they're just receiving their Social Security, and they're on fixed income, and they're meeting those particular challenges. We hope to make that a whole different trajectory for the next generations coming through, so that when they retire, they have a fund available to tap into should they need it.
Oh, that's great. How has COVID affected the way that your organization conducts business? Has it been a challenge, or is it business as usual, except being face to face?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, and because we're under the city and county of Denver, we adhere to the same rules as all other city employees, and so everything that we do is by phone or by virtual communication, like what you and I are doing here. And so we have Zoom, we have Teams, and so we meet folks accordingly. It's really challenging the paradigm that you have to sit across the table from somebody to build a relationship. I think we've all learned that you don't necessarily have to physically be sitting across the table with somebody to have that relationship, to grow and develop that relationship. And so we've made that pivot pretty easily. And so we're moving forward as such. We don't plan on going back to our partner organizations to physically be located there until they're ready, and or the city gives us permission to go back, but also if the organization is ready. And so, but we also know that there's still going to be some hesitancy from a certain population of our customers who would prefer just to meet by camera, virtual meeting, because honestly, transportation is an issue for some of our customers. You got to take a bus or even drive and pay for parking, or it's just less expensive. And for those who have transportation challenges, virtual coaching or coaching by phone is the best way to go. And I think that in the end, we're going to find out that it is very possible to develop a pretty good relationship with people over the over the virtual computer that we're on right now.
Absolutely. So how does the company utilize your organization? How do they get the word out to their employees? What are the steps for somebody to take advantage of your services?
Yeah, so as we're out, prior to COVID, we were out in the community to share our resources and services, and sometimes there's other city and county and Denver employees there that are like, how do I sign up? This sounds really good. Or how do I refer my son or my daughter because they want to buy a new home? And just give us a call at 720-944-2498 or email us at fec@denvergov.org, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and take a look at your financial picture and then identify what your goals are and support you in your goals. And so like I said, we serve individuals, families, as well as small businesses. And so, just give us a call. We're working to get the word out. I think all of our partners at Dito and in the community, we're well known. And so, we really would and very much enjoy to receive more referrals from businesses as well as individuals. And so we'll continue to move forward on that. From a statistical standpoint, let me just give you the data real quick so I don't forget. And so this is our 2019 data, but what it really does here is since date of inception, we served like 8,192 customers for an average of 20,000 coaching sessions. Total debt reduction for the same time period is 6.2 million. Total savings 2.5 million. Total credit point increase was 49 points. They say 35 points takes you to that next bracket, that next positive bracket in your credit score, and we know that better credit score means less interest payments, and so that's a super important piece. And then tax impact with DABC, total numbers served since inception 20,000, and then total refunds of tax prep savings more than 35 million since inception. And so the data speaks for itself. I was also going to tell you that we hot map. We're very data rich, so we hot map our services, and we can provide our data and our impact at the city council members level. And so we can break it down by council district, by city and county of Denver, and we can show exactly these same outcomes broken down per council members districts. And that's really important because they get to see the impact, that the direct impact we're having in the community. And so if anybody wants to see that data, we'd be happy to share it. And so also just real quick on when we're real heavy on data, but also evaluation. And a few years ago, we did an evaluation to see, what's the value of our programming. And so for every dollar we spend in the community, we generate $5.56 back into the community. And for every individual we help with eviction or foreclosure, we save $11 per person. For every dollar we spend, we generate $11 back into the community. Let me correct that. And recently, I know you asked some data and it just popped in my head. Since we started doing foreclosures and, we're working with 10 families, we've already saved 10 houses. And that means we've saved their equity as well. We also saved the bank about $75,000. So, if you really want to look at it from that vantage point, 10 houses saved from the banking side, because the average cost to do a full foreclosure on a property is about $75,000 from the banking perspective. And so, 10 houses at $75,000, that's $750,000. So that's, we're saving the system money. And more importantly, we're saving individuals, houses, and their equity. I know the mayor says live, work, and play in Denver. Our model is let's stay, live, work, and play in Denver, because, we help build this great city and we shouldn't be nudged out because of gentrification, and we want to make sure that our residents are able to stay, live, work, and play in Denver. Also on the eviction side, we've helped over 60 families so far stay in their apartments, and that number is going to grow exponentially since we've had our eviction town halls and our foreclosure town halls. And so we're going to continue to do that. And that was one of the pivots we had to make, because we have to be nimble like everyone else, right? We have to serve our community with the needs that are most important to them. And so, we did make a pivot during COVID to focus on this area and move that forward with our partners as well. And so I just wanted to share that data with you.
Great, thank you for that information. That's some impressive numbers, that's for sure. Absolutely. Yep. Are there any closing things, like are there any events coming up that you're going to be doing, or any things offered like that through your organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's our goal to continue the town halls we're doing with the clerk and recorder's office. If you want to go to their website, we just did an English one regarding foreclosures. And then we did a resource one regarding all the available resources that are out there. And then now we're going to do a Spanish and a Vietnamese town hall and a couple of other, like bankruptcy and some of those other things. The most important thing on the foreclosure piece is that we're doing a co-case management. We developed a co-case management process with Denver Housing Authority, as well as the other housing program, HUD certified housing programs in the metro area, so that if somebody calls us for foreclosure purposes, we automatically make a same-day referral to one of the housing agencies, because they're the ones best suited to address the foreclosure piece. That's what they're certified to do. They also have access to the funds that are out there, and so they're best positioned to support that family. However, if a family is struggling making their mortgage payment, chances are there's other financial insecurities in the home, like food, childcare, transportation costs, things of that nature. And so those are the areas that our coaches help out with, as well as our navigators, and also even consumer financial protection if they feel like the bank or the landlord is not giving them a fair deal based on current COVID, furloughs and rules and regulations around that. That's where our consumer financial protection hops in and make sure that everybody's being treated fairly. And then, just like, I guess I just want to say the last thing, or one of the last things that we're providing too, is information about fraud and how it's impacting people. I don't know about you, but I just learned of 3 of my colleagues whose information was stolen, and somebody's trying to get their unemployment compensation benefits, and they're like, oh, my HR department just called me and somebody stole my ID and they're trying to get unemployment comp benefits. Well, that's just one of them. I mean, there's so many people showing up at older adults' homes promising to fix this or that, but they need money up front. HOAs, if they're behind on property taxes or HOA fees or mortgage payments, we can help find them the resources to get caught up so that they're not at risk of a lien and a foreclosure on their property. And so, those are really the types of things that we look at and what we do. This has been supported by the mayor's office. He's had a couple of quotes which are still very much relevant. Let me pull one up real quick. The mayor indicated that fairness in the financial marketplace protects our most vulnerable residents and allows them to fully participate in a financial environment that provides a level playing field for all. And that was quoted by Mayor Michael B. Hancock. And it is, we do fit in that category of equity and inclusion. And so, a lot of people don't learn how to handle their finances when they're growing up. Maybe their parents didn't teach them, and it certainly wasn't a topic that they taught them in, school, whether it was middle school or high school or even elementary. And so we're taking that mantle and we're picking it up, and we're going to help move people forward. One of the things that I forgot to mention, our other partnership is with the Summer Youth, the Mayor's Office Summer Youth Program. We're now injecting financial coaching into those programs. We're teaching young adults how to manage their money, how to better understand their credit, and to understand how it's going to impact them over the term of their life. And there's data out there that suggests that people of color pay for an average of $44,000 more over a lifetime, just because of lack of knowledge about their credit and how to leverage it and how to increase it and so on and so forth, and even including the banking fees. And so, that's kind of what we do.
That you provide for people definitely is needed in the community. That's, without a doubt. So appreciate it again, and thank you for your time.
Yep, I appreciate you as well, and have a great day, and thanks for this opportunity. I know I was a little bit nervous, but I love this program and the work that we do and the impact we have in the community. And I'm going to continue doing this as long as the city and county of Denver will have me, and we'll keep moving forward.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Alvin.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.